Hey everybody in Cellar Club, my name is Dave at New Belgium. I work in the R&D pilot brewery, and I'm introducing to you this month's Cellar Club beer, which is Trippel on Staves. It's a Belgian style triple that we use some oak spirals for that were soaked in bourbon. And yeah, it's a beer that is near and dear to my heart. I don't do a ton of recipe design back in the pilot. I focus more on raw materials. But triples are near and dear to my heart because I really love the style. I've traveled to Belgium and been to a few different really rad old school triple producers, and they inspired this beer over the course of the last 20 years of my professional life, as well as an American beer. Some people might know Curio from Allagash, which is super good. One of my favorite beers ever. A lot of inspiration there. And, triple is generally a pretty, historically big beer style. Big as in it's going to be, pretty flavor forward. Of course, the ABV, those are inherently part of Belgian Trippel. But we gave it the twist, of course, with putting it on some oak spirals that had been soaked in bourbon. And so the story of this beer, more present day, is that, of course, the spirals add a lot of surface area. So unlike a beer like Curio or other wood-aged beers, we didn't actually put it into a vessel and let it age. We use the spirals, which when you cut the wood that way, it obviously creates a lot of surface area, where we put actually the wood in the tank, in the beer. The wood went into the beer versus the beer going into the wood. And the beer we put in, the wood went into this beer that was made with 100% Pilsner malt, Pevec Pilsner malt from Troubadour malting. And then the only other actual fermentable sugar source in there was Belgian rock candy sugar. And rock candy is a cool thing because it's supposed to be in the recipe, but little side note here, one time I went to Vestmal, and the only difference between their double and their triple, besides the amount of malt, was the type of candy sugar they put in it. And that's where you got this color and deviation in flavor. But I'm really, really, really happy with the way this beer came out because it's big, up near, not between 9 plus 10%. And it drinks just, I think, rather lovely. There's not too many pointy edges on it that are harsh. It has a high drinkability for how big it is. And the body came out really, really lovely. And it ended up having a nice, clean for a Belgian yeast, clean fermentation, but Belgian yeast is going to obviously put off flavor outputs. A lot of times isoamyl, which is that real banana-y flavor, but nothing. I was really pleased with the way the fermentation came out because it allowed us a pretty good palate to play on, or these oak spirals that had been soaked in bourbon to play on, where they were going to be able to speak a little bit to it. And the biggest thing that you'll find, I think, getting into some of the sensory of it, you see this beer, it's this blonde beer. I think the biggest thing that you'll notice that the wood and the bourbon contribute a pretty heavy addition of these vanillins, and so it has these vanilla-y qualities to it, 100%. But it also has the fermentation, and the beer itself has a kind of fruity underbody to it. Really pleased with the way the sweetness of the malt came out. And man, if I was to think about this beer, it's rather delicious. I'm really loving it right now in a food pairing. I don't know. You could pair it with a campfire. You could just eat a campfire. Don't do that. That would be that would cause severe burning. But I don't know. I want to go towards besides eating a fire, I guess I would go. It's such a meal. It's a little bit of a meal in itself without being too sticky on you. But I like making. Man, I'm drinking a beer like this when I'm making clams for my kids, and that's in part because sometimes instead of making clams for my kids with a Pilsner, I'll use a triple. God, I hope it doesn't sound insulting to the beer, like, oh, it's good for cooking. But I would use this, make clams. One of my kids was born in Seattle, and we ate clams all the time. And so I would make this beer with clams and like a nice crunchy baguette with putting some delicious butter on there if you want to, like, I don't know, season that butter in any type of way, or make like a quick garlic bread. Like, I don't know, that's what I would do for a food pairing. This may not be the most ideal sitch, but recommending shellfish to people, but that's what I thought of. So yeah, cheers. I hope I would love to hear your feedback about this beer. I think that's the thing for all my rambling that I come away with, where I'm really pleased with this beer, but if anybody has any thoughts about this, please share it with Kevin and the whole Cellar Club group. That would be super delicious. So until next time, cheers. Hope you enjoyed Triple on Staves.